How I bought a subject to house as my first investment property, plus the marketing and the numbers. Hey gang, this is Mike with MrNoFluff.com and MyRealEstateDojo.com. And today I want to talk about how I got into the real estate game as a refugee to America, not knowing left from right. Okay. Now this is the picture I'm showing you right now. Is the very first house that I bought. It was back in the 2006 when I saw the market crash. I knew I wanted to get into the real estate. At that time, I had a very successful business. I was making a lot of money, and I started my brokerage firm. And I went to banks that were not lending because they had freezed on all the lending because of mortgage-backed security meltdown and prime lending meltdown. And so what happened was that I started buying houses subject to, and this was the very first house I bought subject to. So let me define what a subject to house is. A subject to house simply is where I target motivated sellers. People are like going through a divorce, they're behind in payments, or there's a death in the family, etc. I target motivated sellers, and I just simply just take over their payments and just step into their shoes and start making the payments month after month. That's it. I didn't get a loan for this. I didn't go to a bank and say, hey, I want to buy a house. I did not get a mortgage on this property. I didn't go to a traditional way. I did not hire a real estate agent. I did not go to a mortgage broker. I did not go to a lender. I didn't do any of this stuff. What I did on this property is I marketed to a motivated seller, and he called me, and I started talking to him, and I found out he was motivated. Now, the questions that I asked him to find out he was motivated are in my Ninja phone script. You can find that at My Real Estate Dojo. You can download that if you wish. There's a series of questions I asked him. I said, oh, he's motivated. His motivation was he was going through a divorce, and they were behind 2 months. The wife has already moved out, and he couldn't afford to make the payments on this house anymore because he needed both their paychecks. He was a city worker, and his wife was a teacher. So both their income combined allowed them to own this property. This was a beautiful property. Let me show you the pictures of it, guys. This is a beautiful property. It didn't need any work. It literally didn't need any work. It didn't even have a pool in there, okay? It was awesome, okay? The house was immaculate. This is exactly the pictures that I bought it. This is how it looked like, okay? This is it, guys. All I had to do was just clean it, okay? And you can look at it here, see? It's immaculate shape. It didn't have any appliances. I allowed the sellers to take it. That was part of the negotiation. And all I did for this seller is I just took over his payments. He was behind 2 months. By the time I moved in and I paid the payments, I put 3 payments down. The 2 months he was behind and the first month that I was going to live in, right? Or have it as an investment property. So 3 months. And I give him a free move. I happen to own a moving company, so it didn't cost me a whole lot of money. And I give him the appliances, which his wife had already taken. So there was not much I could do about that. And that's it. I didn't give him any money into his pocket. I just made the bank payments, paid for his closing, which was like roughly about $1,500. That's what it cost me to do the closing. And paid for his move and his back payments in my first month to move in, and I started making payments to his bank direct month after month, and I got a beautiful home. Like this is the condition that I got it. This is the pictures. All I did to this house was just hire a maid. I think we paid her like $200, and she came in there and did some deep cleaning, and that was it. It was a 4-bedroom with a game room with a pool. It was immaculate condition. It was a newer home. The only problem that we did have with the property, I don't know, let me if I can zoom it in or right there in my note, is that it did have foundation problem. You can see right here. I don't know if it's going to show up right here, a little crack, but on the other hand, it had warranty. So after maybe like 5 years of ownership, I called the warranty and filed a claim. They said, hey, do you want to get the foundation fixed, or we can give you some money? And first we had them fix it, but it broke again, and then this time we took their money. So it was a great opportunity for me, okay? Now, what this house needed was nothing, just like I said, cleaning. The seller was highly motivated. He was going through a divorce. The wife had already left with the kids. He couldn't afford the payments anymore. And all it took was me to say, look, I can save your credit. This won't go to foreclosure. I'll make the back payments, which was like 2 months. And I think the payments were like less than where I lived, because at that time, I lived in the luxurious loft, and that was just a 1 bedroom, and I was paying like $1,500 a month. Okay, because I didn't at that time. I wasn't smart enough. I was an entrepreneur. I worked all the time. I didn't think I needed a house, right? But when the market crashed, 2006, 2007, 2008, I realized that, hey, real estate is a great investment to be in. Not because my parents told me or anyone else told me. I just realized this is how millionaires are born in America. So I wanted to get in real estate, but bankers wouldn't give me money. So I created a way for me to buy houses by just taking over people's payments or their loans, their existing loans. And this is an example that I did. Now, when I first bought this property, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Like I said, I was living in a loft. I already had a commitment there, but the payments on this property were like 11 and some change. Okay, I can't remember the top of my head, but way less than what I was paying for. So before, I put it up for rent, and I try to rent it out, and I try to sell it via a program with owner financing. But after just being on the market for just maybe like a month, I was like, man, screw this. I'm just going to move in this property myself, because this is amazing. I had dogs, 2 pit bulls and a little dog. So I was like, you know what, this is way better than the loft. So I just moved in here into this property. I lived in it for, a couple of years, and then I moved out. I realized this is way too big of a house for me. I was just by myself. I don't need all this space. And because it was 2 floors, again, it was a 4-bedroom, game room, pool. I can't remember exactly, like almost 4,000 square foot home. And all I had to come up with was 2 months behind, which was like I said, 1,100 and some change, like 1,125 or something. Let's say, just to say, rounded down to 1,100. So I had to come up with 1,000 or 2,200 plus the $1,500 closing, and then the first month that I moved in, I got to make the monthly payments, so I included that in there. All in all, right around like $5,000 or less. I remember to myself, I was like, this is a smoking deal, because this was my very first deal, because I thought about renting a house before when I was living in a loft, and when I looked around, they wanted the first month rent plus the security deposit that was equal to that. And when I bought this house, if I would have rented a house just like this, I would have had to put more down on a security deposit and the first month rent than I did to actually get the deed in my name, get the ownership. And I was blown away. For example, let me say this again. It cost me less to buy this house, get the deed in my name, the ownership in my name. I have all the benefits of ownership, right? I didn't have to get a loan. I didn't have to go to a bank. It would cost me less to do this than to go out there and rent the same exact house. Because if I would have rent the same exact house and the guy was renting it for $1,500, let's say, then I would have to give this guy $3,000 down, because first month plus security deposit plus application fees and property management fee, prepping the dogs, all this stuff. I was right around the same ballpark, or even a little bit less, not much less, just a little bit less than what I would have to fork over to rent a house. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I own this house. And at that time, Obama was in, and he was giving away $10,000 if you moved into the property. And I think he lived in it for 2 years. I can't remember top of my head. And so I talked to my CPA. I was like, you know what? Let me just jump in here. So I moved into this property. I lived in it for like 2 or 3 years, and I got the $10,000 from Obama. And after that timeline that was required, then I moved out. It was too big, and I rented this sucker out. I rented this house out for $2,000 a month. Like I said, my monthly payments at that time were like 1,100 and something. So I was making massive cash cow from this, and I had a renter that stayed in there for quite a while. It was a great investment. I invested less than that would require me to get a rental property first month in security deposit. So it was an awesome deal. I lived in it. I got 10 grand from Uncle Sam. Because at that time they were giving away first-time home buyers, and again, I never had bought a house before. So my very first investment house, I bought it as an investment, I thought, but in reality, I turned it into my own personal home. I lived in it for a couple of years, and then after that, I turned it around and turned it into a rental property, and I was cash flowing, guys, 500 plus a month, guys, and the great thing with this property was it was a newer property. It didn't need any work. And it was a nice area. Later on, I sold this property when I decided to, give up all majority of my stuff to the homeless people, and I sold it for pennies on a dollar. But I was still able to put almost 100K in equity cash out of my pocket from just this one deal. Okay, again, remember I put up like $5,000 or less, and I was able to do an equity cash out of 100,000. That doesn't include the monthly cash flows that I got from it from all the years of ownership, guys. Okay, that was a lot of years that I was getting the 500, per month. So it was a great opportunity. I didn't have to go to a bank. I didn't have to go to a lender. And this was my very, very first deal. After that, I was hooked. I realized that, man, dude, I can get beautiful homes. I don't have to rehab them. I don't have to be, all this crazy stuff. I don't have to be in a war zone dealing with deadbeats. This house was in Grand Prairie, Texas. And if you guys don't know, that's the milk and butter. That was the area that I targeted because there was a lot of businesses there. For example, Lockheed Martin was just a couple of blocks from my house. It brought a lot of jobs. Some of the people that I rented to worked there. So I had a lot of properties in that area because it was a great working area class where people had good jobs, not super good jobs, but they were still working class. They're working for the city. There were teachers. They worked for Lockheed Martin. Those type of people, and income, and they paid, and they wanted to have a decent school system. They wanted to live somewhere decent, and it was a new home. I loved it. Okay, now when I think about it, I wish I never sold this house because this property has gone up in value even more and more and more since time has gone by. Now they have created a mall right next to the place. There's a lot of different things going around Grand Prairie, so it makes it a great rental property. Now let's talk about the marketing. Okay, how did I find this house? Well, I used multiple marketing. Okay, first thing I did is with this gentleman, it was in the middle of the economic collapse, so bandit signs worked really, really good at that time. Now today, bandit signs don't work that great. 2016, 2017 didn't work. They're starting to work a little bit better now, but I'm not going to put bandit signs now. When the meltdown happens, then I'll do bandit signs. But this one came from a bandit sign, but it also required, direct mail marketing. Because once they came in with the bandit sign, I talked to them. They said no. I always say no, or it's just normal. And then I ruled them in. I pulled them back in with the direct marketing through the follow-up. Okay. Now, if you're interested in finding deals like this in your own backyard, then I highly recommend joining my profit sharing coaching, where we work together and we'll split the profits. If you're interested in that, then definitely join profit sharing. Go to mrnofluff.com. Again, mrnofluff.com. I'll give you my systems on how to market it, how to find the deals, how to structure the deals, how to negotiate the deals, how to fund the deals, all that stuff. And again, we work together and we split the profits. If you're interested in that, go to mrnofluff.com. Now, the numbers on this deal I quickly went over. I paid some money for bandit signs. I paid a couple of bucks for marketing, direct mail, maybe $5 or $6, not that much, okay? Because I wasn't mailing out to millions of people or thousands of people. I was just mailing out to this one seller over and over, okay? And I had to pay $1,500 in closing, which this was my very first deal, so I paid too much, right? Because later on, I learned how to do it myself or hire better an attorney and just paid him $750. So the closing cost was a little higher for me. It was $1,500. I had to pay the guy 2 months in arrears, which was roughly $2,200 plus the $1,500. That's $3,500, $6,000, $7,000. That's $3,700 that I had to fork over. I did give the guy a free move. Again, I own a moving company. I ended up maybe paying $200 for that move, okay, out of my own pocket. So $4,000 is what I paid. Now, out of the $4,000, the monthly cash flows that I got from the very first year, as you can see, almost paid for the sucker, okay? If not the second year, almost paid for that sucker. And then the third year, it was all positive. Now, also, please notice that I almost pocketed $100,000 on equity cash out when I sold it back in 2016 at the top of the market. I put almost 100K in my pocket there. I got the monthly cash flows. I got $10,000 from Uncle Sam for being my very own personal home, because I turned it into my very first personal home for the requirement of that program. And so it was a really, really great win for me. If I would have put $5,000 or $4,000, actually, that's what it came out to roughly, into a bank, I wouldn't got anything back. If I would have put it in a CD, I wouldn't got anything back. Now, why wouldn't I got anything back? Because sure, I would have got some percent of interest, but inflation would have overtaken that. If I had to put it into gold, I wouldn't got that kind of thing back. If I would have put it in business, I don't know what businesses I could put $5,000 in and make $100K, not doing anything besides collecting passive income. Okay, now, on this house, I did not do any evictions, not that I can recall, but I did have other houses in that area where I did have to do evictions, okay? So this house was a pretty awesome house. It didn't have a lot of problems. Like I said, it had the foundation, but it was under warranty. And then I even got paid for the second time they had to come around, and I just, instead of them fixing it, I just took their money. It was another couple of grand. So all in all, I was super, super, super happy with this deal. I didn't have to go get a loan. It was a non-recourse loan. I didn't have to pay all the junk fees of, buying title policy, this and that, because this was a cookie cutter house. The seller was the original homeowner. So I was able to save a lot of fees, save on a lot of fees, a lot of junk fees, and I was a super happy camper, guys. Now, again, if you're interested on buying your very first investment property, or if you're interested in buying your own very first home using this strategy where the investor markets to motivated sellers, they work directly with sellers, there's no banks involved, there's no real estate agent is involved, and if you're interested in just taking over sellers' existing loan, then you might highly recommend going to my profit sharing coaching, because we'll work together and we'll split the profits at mrnofluff.com, mrnofluff.com, or you can check out my store at myrealestatedojo.com. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in finding deals like this, highly recommend joining profit sharing. Click the like button, share this message, and guess what? Let me know if you've done a subject to deal and how did it go for you. Peace.